Hi there, welcome to our channel. Today I'm talking about developments in British politics. It's not about the recent change in government that was going to happen anyway. It is about what I consider a far more important and pressing issue. It is about the incoming UK government's recent announcement that it has scrapped the Rwanda deportation deal. The recently elected government of Keir Starmer declared the so-called Rwanda plan dead and buried. In April of 22, just to give you a background, the then Tory administration of Rishi Sunak came up with the idea of what it called the Rwanda deportation scheme. Its premise was simple. People arriving on the shores of southern England on the so-called small boats would be rounded up. Afterwards, they would be put on chartered planes and then sent to Kigali in Rwanda. Once there, they would claim asylum just as they would have done if they were in the UK. If successful on their asylum claims, they would be given the status of refugees and granted the right to stay in Rwanda. The plan faced intense political opposition from the British public. To begin with, it showed the hypocrisy of the UK government when it came to welcoming refugees. Most observers pointed out that refugees are only welcome on British soil if they happen to be of the right color. In February of 22, for instance, after Russia invaded Ukraine, thousands of refugees from Ukraine ended up in the UK. They were welcomed with open arms. The Rwanda plan in this instance showed what happens when those refugees are black Africans. It's not only the British public who were against the idea. In November 2023, the country's top judges in the UK Supreme Court declared the scheme illegal. Opposition from the British public and the country's top court did not stop the Tories. They simply went ahead and changed the law. They passed an act of parliament declaring Rwanda to be a safe country for refugees. On its part, Rwanda was rewarded with over 300 million British pounds of taxpayers' money. There were promises of further incentives in the form of cash payments for each refugee successfully settled into Rwanda. However, this is not the first time Rwanda has struck this kind of deal. In 2014, it concluded a secret deal with Israel where it agreed to take refugees from Africa. Rwanda was paid 5,000 American dollars for each migrant successfully deported to Kigali in Rwanda. By 2018, 4,000 refugees had been sent to Kigali. Most of these were Eritreans. However, they ended up destitute and without any legal status. Most chose to leave Rwanda altogether. Most of you would be wondering why I've chosen to discuss this issue at all. For a start, Paul Kagame is the favorite African dictator prepared to do the dirty work for most right-wing Western governments. Where Western governments cannot step on African soil, where there is likely to be a backlash from their own publics, they simply outsource the work to heartless African dictators like Paul Kagame. In the late 1970s and the early 1980s, the role of brutalizing Africans was left to the Boers in South Africa and other stooges of Western interests like Mobutu Sese Seko and Jonas Savimbi. Now we have a different breed of Uncle Toms. Forgive me if I'm using an unfamiliar term. In American English, an Uncle Tom is a black person prepared to act on behalf of the interests of the oppressor against the interests of their own relatives for simple favors. Paul Kagame is the West's favorite Tom. However, the Rwanda plan was doomed to fail from the start. For a start, to welcome refugees on the scale proposed by the Tories in their so-called Rwanda plan, you need a functioning legal system. You need a functioning economy with jobs to go around. Rwanda has neither of these. It has 95% unemployment for its youth. Its major export is its own people in the form of refugees. It has barely a functioning legal system. Rwanda itself, for the past 20 or so years, has embarked on a massive public relations campaign. It has been paying top football clubs in Europe to advertise the country as a top holiday destination. It consults former Western leaders to polish its image abroad. The image of Rwanda as an African success story is far from the real picture. Rwanda serves as an enforcer of dirty Western interests on the African continent. Its chief export to Western governments is its soldiers. It has deployed its army in the Cabo Delgado province in northern Mozambique. In northern Mozambique, it is guarding the gas plant for the French energy giant Total. It has its soldiers in the Central African Republic and South Sudan. In all these places, Western governments would dare not send their own soldiers or Western mercenaries. Now they have Rwanda to do their dirty work. The Labour government in the UK scrapping the Rwanda plan is the first time a major Western government has openly come out against the Rwandan dictatorship of Paul Kagame. It's a major setback for Rwanda. It's not only a public relations disaster, but it might mean Rwanda paying back the money it received from the UK government. However, Paul Kagame's government has insisted Rwanda does not have to pay back the money it already received. The refugees entering the UK using the so-called small boats are from conflict hotspots such as Somalia, Sudan, Eritrea, and the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. For black Africans who succeed in crossing the English Channel using the so-called small boats, they would have survived a more perilous journey. They would have walked across the Sahara Desert. They would have survived the desert heat. They would have survived the threat of people smugglers selling them into slavery. Then they would have to cross the Mediterranean in leaky boats which regularly sink into the ocean. In fact, if one were to take the case of people from the eastern DRC, it is Rwanda itself which is waging war in that same part of the country. So you have a situation where the Congolese are fleeing death at the hands of Rwandan war criminals in eastern Congo. They then make their way to the safety of Western Europe. Once they cross the English Channel, and they are then deported back to Kigali. If Rwanda were a safe country to begin with, most Africans would have made their own way there. The scrapping of the Rwanda deportation scheme is just one small step. What we are waiting for is the new UK government to call on Rwanda to stop waging war in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. For most Congolese, there is no reason to leave their own homes if there is no one forcing them to leave their homes in the first place. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave your comments below if you feel there are issues worth discussing. And don't forget to subscribe. And please don't forget to give me some likes. Thank you. Bye.